300-pound dudes tackling you on a frozen field, the last thing you want to do is stay out there. Believe me, the Rams players were thinking about the jacuzzi at their team hotel, that they find it laughable, but more laughable if they totally disregard the trade whatsoever. This guy has transformed the balance of power in the Eastern Conference. And you could argue the entire defense is going to be absolutely ferocious next year. But if your number one priority is to win a Super Bowl, then J.J. Watt is making a grave mistake. To ride this Chad Henne experiment for an entire game, I might need a whole bottle of Hennessy just to get through that. Guy who's won 8 division titles, who's made 5 AFC championship appearances, who's reached the Super Bowl 3 times and has won 2 Super Bowls for this organization. Aaron Rodgers has only won 1 Super Bowl with Green Bay. Drew Brees has only won 1 Super Bowl with New Orleans. There's only 13 quarterbacks in NFL history that have won multiple Super Bowls, and Big Ben is one of those individuals. Good morning and welcome to Morning Joe right here on J&J Media Network, Facebook Live, Twitter, and on YouTube. I'm Jonah Malcolm with you every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Glad you could join me on a Wednesday morning, a really interesting sports-related Wednesday morning. Some more bold proclamations, some predictions, some of my evaluations of the NFL teams, top 10 rankings coming up for the first time all season. I'm doing it specifically midway through the year. My top 5 breakout NBA players that I expect to take a huge leap in this season, and I've already started to show signs of that, and some big announcements from Carli Lloyd that I'm going to touch on, as well as a little bit of the World Series. But I have to start with this story. So for the last couple of days, and really all across social media, there's been this viral rumor, Mike Tomlin being associated with the USC head coaching vacancy. And yesterday, he was discussed. He was asked about it in his conference, and he emphatically shut down those rumors. He emphatically denied them, saying that it was a joke, saying that there are not enough boosters, or a booster wouldn't be able to write a big enough blank check to get him to go to SC. So he was obviously incensed. He was enraged, almost viewed it as an affront on his character. Like, how could someone have the audacity to even entertain the idea that I would leave the Steelers job for the USC head coaching job? And let me first say that I understand on face value why he reacted that way. I understand that it seems preposterous to think that he would have any desire to leave the Pittsburgh Steelers for USC, because the insinuation is that there's some level of disinterest or dissatisfaction with his current job, or perhaps some underlying desire to leave his current position. That's what one could kind of intimate from the way that he reacted and the way that the question is posed. So I understand that's how Mike Tomlin is interpreting this. He embodies Pittsburgh. He reflects and embodies this blue-collar mentality, which is obviously a major characteristic of the people and the town of Pittsburgh itself, a blue-collar town, hardworking individuals. So on face value, I understand why Mike Tomlin reacted the way that he did. But one of my favorite adages in life is insult is the sincerest form of flattery. And when we think about the NFL, who are the best types of coaches? The best types of coaches in the NFL are the guys that are able to lead these groups of men. These are fully formed adult men with families, with kids, with inflated egos, with immense levels of testosterone. These are really prideful guys who don't necessarily ask to be led, but a good coach is able to reel them in the NFL and even be able to get on the level of adults and get them to buy in, get them to trust and believe and follow the head coach. That's what a good head coach does in the NFL. And there are a lot of great head coaches in the NFL, from the guys like Bill Belichick to Sean Payton to Sean McVay to John Harbaugh, Andy Reid. There's some really good coaches in the NFL, but across the board, when you think about the one coach that has seemed to seems to embody this characteristic of someone who truly gets on the players' level and is truly all in on the players, cares about them, can get on their level, is Mike Tomlin. Every single time you hear about who's the best players coach, it's Mike Tomlin. Who would you want to run through a brick wall for? It's Mike Tomlin. You hear his former players, current players, retired athletes, analysts who just idolize Mike Tomlin. They swear to him. They swear by him. Because there's some feeling that he gives off, like he's battling in the trenches with you. Former player, hard-nosed, tough. This is someone who you just get the feeling is fully invested in you, wants to be in the battle with you. And when we really think about all of the great, again, coaches in the NFL, and there's so many, the fact that he was singled out for that job says a lot. And in fact, it's actually paying him the ultimate compliment. The fact that of any NFL head football coach, and most people view that the coaches in the NFL are the best football coaches anywhere, the guy that they thought would be the best fit for this college, would be the best leader of men, would be the most responsible, is Mike Tomlin. Because the difference between the NFL and in college, the head football coach, it's not simply about X's and O's. It's about recruiting. It's about walking into families' homes and convincing them and their kids that they should come play for me because I'm going to buy into them. In college, it's not just about developing football players. It's about developing young men. You can mold, you can shape, you can influence these kids in ways that oftentimes doesn't extend quite as deeply in the NFL, because the NFL, these are full-grown adults already. They've got families. They've got lives. They're not necessarily looking for a father figure. In college, that's what you're getting. You're getting the college figure. You're getting the head football coach. You're getting the guy who is going to mold and to shape your son. And that's why Mike Tomlin, I understand why he was so enraged by this. I understand why he wanted to just rebuke it and dismiss it utterly. I get that. But if he really were to take a step back, and maybe he'll have a moment by himself away from all the media, he should actually interpret this as a huge compliment. Of all the coaches, they picked him. Of all the NFL coaches, they wanted Mike Tomlin because they knew that this is a guy who would be the most responsible and who would be the best leader of men. Not to mention the USC job in and of itself is probably a top 5, if not a top 3 college football job in America. Great access to resources, recruits. Again, I'm not advocating for Mike Tomlin to leave. He's got a great situation in Pittsburgh. He shouldn't leave Pittsburgh. He's not going to leave Pittsburgh. But the USC head job is obviously a pretty prestigious one. And he'd easily and instantly be one of the best coaches and recruiters in the league. All right, I should say really at the college football level. It's almost like when parents are leaving to go out to dinner with their own couples, with other couples, right? And they're hiring a babysitter. Maybe the babysitter's been doing it for years and doesn't want to do it anymore, but they reach out to them and say, hey, can you babysit my kid? Instead of viewing that as an insult, like I've been there, done that, they're actually paying you the highest compliment, because what they're saying is, of all the young adults we can choose from, we think you are the most responsible. We trust you the most to watch after our kid. And that's essentially the type of compliment that's being paid forward to Mike Tomlin right now. So with that, I'm excited to finally reveal my current top 10 rankings list in the NFL heading into week 8. Again, I don't like to do this too often. There are a lot of other outlets that kind of do this, but they do it on a more frequent basis. And I don't really like to do these rankings every week, because I just think there's so much fluctuation. There needs to be context involved, and it's hard to develop that context necessarily after every single week. So we're about midway through the season, and this is going to be a little controversial at number 10, which I'm going to get into in a second. But these are my top 10 picks, or not top 10 picks. These are my top 10 NFL teams right now heading into week 8. So at number 10, this was a toss-up. This was close between the Raiders and the Chargers, but I'm going with the Las Vegas Raiders for now. Listen, they're 5-2. They're tied for the best record in the AFC. And it's hard just to not give them the credit right now. They're 2-0 since the whole John Gruden resignation development. They've regrouped really well. Their top 10 offense in the league, Derek Carr, has been playing extremely well. Second most passing yards in the league. Right now, they really started to develop Henry Ruggs. This is a guy who's turning into a legitimate wide receiver who's playing well. Of course, they have Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs. And the defense is actually improving. This is a defense that's top 10 against the pass. They're starting to develop more of a pass rush as well. So I kind of like the direction right now that I'm seeing out of the Las Vegas Raiders. I have them at number 10. At number 9, Cincinnati Bengals. They put the NFL on notice last week when they romped the Ravens 41-17. I think that was the first true wake-up call for all of us about the Cincinnati Bengals team. Like, hey, this isn't a team you're going to roll over anymore. This isn't a team that's at the bottom of the AFC North. No, you look at the AFC North, they're sitting atop the AFC North right now, at least tied for the division with the Ravens. They're 5-2. Again, they've got a share of the best record in the AFC. The offense is emerging as an elite offense. Of course, Jamar Chase, second most receiving yards in the NFL this year. Second most receiving yards in the NFL behind Cooper Kupp. He's been sensational. Obviously, the leading candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Joe Burrow is getting stronger. He's getting healthier. More importantly, people forget that he tore his ACL midway through the season last year, and now he's still bouncing back and having an even more impressive second campaign than he did the first time around. And the defense right now continues to improve. They've got some really interesting pieces. Logan Wilson is second with interceptions, with 4 on the season. And you look at this overall defense, they're top 5 scoring defense in the NFL. Are the Cincinnati Bengals, holding teams to 18 points per game. So you got Logan Wilson, you got Trey Hendrickson, who is top 5 in sacks with 6.5 sacks on the year. So you're getting some inside pressure. You're getting the dynamic cornerback play. And obviously the offense is doing a really good job keeping Burrow upright. And the connection that he and Jamar Chase just continue to develop, just getting stronger and stronger. And I think that the Cincinnati Bengals are really rolling. They're really coming. So they're at number 9. At number 8, I know this is a little bit controversial given the fact that the Bengals just beat the Ravens, but I'm sorry, I just don't view the Bengals as legitimately better than the Baltimore Ravens if they were to play 10 times. I think the Ravens would probably win that 7 out of the 10 times. So I've got the Ravens at number 8. They're 5-2. Listen, I think that they should have beaten the Raiders in week 1. If they beat the Raiders in week 1, then they're 6-1 right now, and no one's really discussing them in the same way as they are right now. I just think that Lamar Jackson's on another level. The guy is 16th in the NFL in passing yards with like 1,943 passing yards, but he's also top 6 in the NFL in rushing yards amongst all players in the NFL. Top 16 in passing, top 6 in rushing is Lamar Jackson. And what he's been doing just every single year, getting better, becoming a more accurate thrower, being smarter with his legs, being a little bit more selective about the passes that he's making when he's choosing to take off. I just like his poise. I love the commitment and the drive that he has. John Harbaugh is an excellent coach. And again, the Ravens are still 5-2, tied for the best record in the AFC. So I personally still like them at number 8. The defense, listen, is it the best? No, but they're still top 5 against the run, which is important that they have some semblance of a defensive infrastructure implemented. So I like them at number 8. At number 7 is the Tennessee Titans. Do I absolutely love the Tennessee Titans? No, but the one thing that they can claim over almost every single other team in the NFL is a clear sense of identity. This is a run team. This is a running and physical football club. Derrick Henry is a leading candidate, not a leading candidate, but a candidate for league MVP. The guy's been a monster, head and shoulders above the rest when it comes to running backs. Leads the NFL in rushing yards with over like 820. Leads the NFL in rushing touchdowns with 10. The guy's been just an individual workhorse. And without him, the Titans wouldn't be where they're at. And the interesting thing is they always just seem to be there in the mix. They're not necessarily a Super Bowl favorite, but they've had some really quality wins over the Bills. They've had over the Colts. I mean, this is a good team. This is a really good team. They've got some playmakers. Harold Landry, the second. He's got 7.5 sacks, which is second in the NFL. Kevin Byard with 3 interceptions. So they've got some playmakers. And again, the Titans just destroyed the Chiefs. Say what you want about them, but they've got some quality wins, and I'd be hard-pressed not to insert them right now at number 7. At number 6, the Green Bay Packers. This might be the hottest team in the NFL. Since that just annihilation in week 1 that they suffered to the Saints, they've reeled off 6 straight wins. They've got some quality wins over the Steelers, at the 49ers, at the Bengals. Now we're seeing that win against the Bengals in overtime is actually looking pretty good. And Aaron Rodgers is still as efficient as ever. 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So I think that the Green Bay Packers at 6-1, again, tied for the second best record in the NFC. I just have to put them at number 6. The only reason I don't have them a little bit higher is because I do have some reservations about their defense. They are a top 7 total defense in the league, but I'm not fully sold on them quite the same like I was last year. But listen, this Thursday is the big test because they're playing the Cardinals on the road this Thursday. No Devontae Adams. He's on the COVID list. No Allen Lazard as well, was just announced yesterday. He's on the COVID list. So this is a marquee opportunity for Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones and Valdez-Scantling and whomever else that they're going to feature, Robert Tonyan, whoever else that they're going to feature. If Aaron Rodgers and the Packers can ultimately go to Arizona, who's completely healthy, don't have any absences and injuries to speak of, and they can win that, well, now I'm catapulting them inside the top 3. But until I see that happen, I still want to reward them for being 6-1, but they haven't looked necessarily the most dominant, so I'm keeping them at number 6. At number 5 is the LA Rams. I could make an argument the Rams should be slightly higher, though I'm going to try and remove my bias from the Rams, given the fact that I'm from Los Angeles. This is a 6-1 team. The offense is electric. Matthew Stafford, 3rd most passing yards in the league. He's a candidate for league MVP, 19 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. The connection that he has with Cooper Kupp, that might be the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the league. And I'm not embellishing. Cooper Kupp leads the NFL in receiving yards with over 800. And the guy that's throwing it to him is Matthew Stafford. Their rapport is extremely strong, clearly. They're starting to actually fill the void of Cam Akers, given the fact that Cam Akers ruptured his Achilles right before the start of the season. There was a gaping hole in their run game. They've started to plug that in nicely. They're managing to still get some productive rushing yards. And the defense, though it's not nearly the same as it's been in several years, they're still top 10 in total defense, and they've got huge wins against the Bucks and against the Colts. And I understand that the Bucks were about to face New England Patriots the following week, so maybe their mindset was a little bit shifted and their focus was a little bit spread out. But I'm not going to take away the performance I saw from the Rams. They've just been really steady, and I think that they are poised right now to just continue to creep up closer and closer to that number 1 overall spot in the rankings. I have them modestly at number 5. At number 4, a little bit controversial to a certain extent, the Buffalo Bills. Again, I don't just look at wins and losses, but how have you been playing? The Bills right now are 4-2. So yes, they have 2 losses, but the initial loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, that feels like ancient times. They had won 4 straight. And to be honest, they should have beaten the Tennessee Titans if not for Josh Allen being able to convert a 1-yard run on 4th and 1. He couldn't get it. So I just thought that the Bills were honestly better than the Titans. And I just think that if they were to play multiple times, that they would win the majority of those games. So I don't really care that they're 4-2. They should be probably 5-1. And listen, Josh Allen, I don't necessarily believe that the Buffalo Bills are the best team in the AFC or will finish as the best team in the AFC. But for right now, I have to reward them for the work that they've done. And again, I don't want to dismiss the win against the Chiefs. Yes, it wasn't the most beautiful fashion, but it's still a quality win in my mind. They're top 6 offense in the league, the number 1 rated defense in the league. That says something. That says something. So I'm not going to dismiss that. I mean, they've got some playmakers, Tremont Edmonds, Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde. They've got some really, really special defensive players, and that's contributed to the number 1 overall defense. So we kind of forget about them because they're coming off a bye week right now. But I've got them at number 4. At number 3, the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, yes. This is a good team. They're 5-1. They got the number 1 rated offense in the NFL. And more importantly, what they've done is they've reestablished that offensive line. That offensive line is starting to look like it did 3 to 5 years ago as one of the prolific offenses buttressed by that offensive line. It's established the run game. Now they're a top 2 running attack in the league. Ezekiel Elliott is starting to regain his form, just as productive as he was several years ago. Tony Pollard is also proving that he can be an every down type of back, not just for the Cowboys, but for any team. So I really like what they're doing. And defensively, they've got the most interceptions of any team in the league. So they're very opportunistic on the defensive side. 11 interceptions on the season, 7 for Trevon Diggs. He's probably one of the leading candidates, if not the leading candidate for defensive player of the year. The way that he's just kind of been a glove over at the cornerback position. So he's been really good. Micah Parsons has been really good. They're top 10 against the run. That says something. Again, this was a putrid defense that has now started to take some steps forward. So I like them at number 3. I have to give them credit. And they don't even have Michael Gallup yet. And this offense is still loaded. So I have them at number 3. At number 2, you could argue they should be number 1, but I'm going to have them at number 2. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 6-1. Again, their only loss to the LA Rams at SoFi. Perhaps part of their concentration was a little bit divvied up as they were preparing for the New England Patriots the following week. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, listen, Tom Brady just continues to defy physics, continues to defy age and logic at 44 as the leading candidate and front runner for league MVP. 21 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and he's just doing it again. He's doing it with a cornucopia of players and options and weapons to go to. Mike Evans has been sensational. Chris Godwin. And again, now they're utilizing OJ Howard. They don't even have Gronkowski back. They still have Antonio Brown. This team is just loaded. It's absolutely loaded. They don't even have Scotty Miller yet. Their running backs are productive. Giovanni Bernard, Leonard Fournette, Rojo. So they're getting production out of the running back position, and the defense is really starting to turn heads once again. As I talked about kind of last year, they're building off of that confidence from a season ago. Now they're starting to whip into shape. They demolished the Bears 38-3. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I just have to get them at number 2. I have to get them at number 2. They got the best run defense in the NFL, which was one of their calling cards last season. So it's good to see that they're still, once again, strong in that department. So I have them at number 2. And at number 1, listen, I have to go with the Arizona Cardinals. At this point, if you don't have the Arizona Cardinals at number 1, you're just disrespectful. Now, do I think that they are head and shoulders definitively the best team in the NFL? No, I'm not going to say unequivocally they're number 1. They're leaps and bounds ahead of other teams. I think there are a lot of other teams in the top 10 that could give them a run for their money, could beat them. But at this point, they're the only undefeated team in the league at 7-0. And you have to be rewarded for that. And when they're right, listen, this is a really difficult team to stop offensively. Kyler Murray is having a tremendous season. He's in the running for league MVP. He's healthy and he's upright, which at this point of the season last year was not the case, and that kind of derailed them. And ultimately, that's what kind of led to the season spiraling out of control a little bit. That's not the case. J.J. Watt has come in and kind of infused this confidence into this defense. The defense is playing well. They actually limit teams to the fewest points per game. 16.3 points per game in the NFL. That's best in the NFL. So the defense is good. The offense is elite. And they've got an MVP candidate at the quarterback position in Kyler Murray. I have to reward them and him for that. So I've got them at number 1, wins over the Titans and the Rams, both on the road. This is a legitimate team. This is without question, a legitimate team. So those are my top 10 right now. Again, about midway through the season, so things can change, but that's where I'm at with that. So I want to transition to the NBA because now the first couple games have started. And I'm going to come out with an edition of this for the rookies because there are a lot of standout rookies that I do want to talk about. I'm not doing that today. Today, I just want to reveal my top 5 breakout players in the league that I think are really going to take a huge step forward this year, that are going to build off the momentum of the first couple of games. And this is not just going to be a little blimp in the season. These guys are actually going to take off. So at number 1, this is an obvious one. This is a guy that I've been extremely bullish on from the moment he stepped into the NBA because I'm a big fan of the whole family and the brothers. This is LaMelo Ball. The Charlotte Hornets, listen, LaMelo Ball is balling out. I mean, perfectly just embodies his last name. Just balls out. This is a guy who won Rookie of the Season last year, 16 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. He's following that up now with 23 points, 5.5 rebounds, and nearly 7 assists on the season through the first 4 games. They started out the year 3-0. Their only loss was to the Boston Celtics in overtime. And this is a Hornets team that, first of all, I think is going to make at the very least the play-in tournament, if not the actual playoffs, and he's going to be the reason why. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is the season that he actually earns his first All-Star nod. I could totally see this being the year that LaMelo Ball in year 2 ends up being an All-Star in the NBA. Would not surprise me. He is that good. He's at number 1. At number 2, and again, this isn't necessarily in the order of how I'd rank them. These are just the 5 that I'm listing. The second player is Ja Moran. This guy doesn't need an introduction. I talked about him a couple days ago when the Grizzlies and the Lakers played. Ja Morant's been sensational. He's an electrifying player, just a scintillating basketball player. The explosiveness, the athleticism, the power now. Now he can stroke it from the outside as well as the finesse with the up and under. He's just improved every single year. I love what he's about. I love the leadership. I think Memphis, the fact that he won Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, or 3 years ago rather, and then not only that, but he led Memphis to the playoffs last year in his second season. I think this year is going to be an all-star. I think this year is going to be an all-star, averaging 35 points, 4 rebounds, 8 assists through the first 3 games. Do I think that's necessarily going to keep up and hold up throughout the entire season? No. But doesn't matter. 44% from the three-point line. John Morant's the real deal. He's the real deal, and I like him as one of my top 5 breakout players in the league. At number 3 is Anthony Edwards. People kind of sleep on him because he's in Minnesota, and he was the runner-up for the Rookie of the Year award last year behind LaMelo Ball. He still had a great rookie season, Anthony Edwards. He averaged 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists as a rookie. And yet he follows that up now, 25 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 42% from the three-point line, 87.5% from the free throw line. This is a guy who's more than just a human highlight reel who can put people on posters. No, this is a legitimate basketball player with skill who's improving every single year. He's establishing his outside shot. He could always drive to the rim. He was always explosive and athletic that way. But he's adding a little bit more finesse to his game, and he's more productive. And I'll be the first to say I don't think that the Minnesota Timberwolves necessarily are going to make the playoffs, but perhaps they might be able to make a push given this guy's elevation. The fact that this guy is developing the way that he is and can actually complement Karl Anthony Towns, maybe they've got something there. Now D'Angelo Russell doesn't need to be the second best guy to score 30 points a game. You still have Patrick Beverley was traded there, providing some stability and some leadership, some grittiness. So I kind of like Anthony Edwards to just continue to ball out. This is a guy that, again, I don't think he's going to be an all-star this year, but if the Minnesota Timberwolves can somehow be a legitimate top 6 team in the playoff, maybe they can get 2 guys. Maybe they can get 2 guys with Karl Anthony Towns and then Anthony Edwards. Looks like those 2 are playing really well together, and he, in particular, is taking a huge step forward. At number 4 is Tyler Hero. Listen, he's over his sophomore slump. Everyone was denigrating him and ridiculing him. He's done. It was just a little bubble blimp. No, this guy's back. He's already scored 30 points in a game so far this year through the first 3 games. He's been averaging 23.7 rebounds, 5 assists. The scoring and the rebounds are all second on the team. And the assists, he's tied for second on the team. And he's coming off the bench. So I think that he's probably the leading candidate for 6th man of the year, not just right now, but probably throughout the entire season. And this is the blue chip that Riley and Spoelstra and Mickey Arison that they were banking on. Because if Tyler Hero can play like this and be that legitimate 6th man of the year option, or potentially more, showing that type of upside, well, now the Miami Heat's upside is a lot bigger. That was the biggest question mark, is what will Tyler Hero be? And from his first couple seasons to now, he's more than just a catch-and-shoot guard. He's actually 6'6". He can put it on the floor. He's got nice handles. He can create his own shot. He's a really good player. We saw him perform at the highest stage in the bubble in the finals. And even throughout that entire postseason run, he's following that up right now. I've been really impressed, shooting a career-high 46% from the floor. So the Heat are going to be back this year, and it's all because not just of Kyle Lowry, not just because of Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, or Duncan Robinson. It's because of Tyler Hero. The upside of him equates to the upside of the Miami Heat. He's playing really well right now. Miami Heat are going to have a good season with him playing well. And finally, the 5th guy, I'm going to go with Cam Reddish of the Atlanta Hawks. I've been impressed with what I've seen from him. People kind of sleep on him because he wasn't that productive his first 2 years, averaged 10 points a game and 11 points a game his first and second years in the league. He was derailed by injuries last year, so we didn't see him that much on the court. But Cam Reddish out of Duke in his 3rd year is starting to find it. He has flipped the switch so far through the first 3 games, averaging 19 points per game. And again, he's evolved into more than just a catch-and-shoot player in the corner where you just kind of send him off to the corner and he could spot up and hit threes. He does a lot more than just that. So I like what I'm seeing from Cam Reddish. 19 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist per game so far. Again, it's early in the season, but I see him also being a guy who's going to be in contention for sixth man of the year. He comes off the bench, and the Atlanta Hawks are in the spotlight. This is a really good team, so he's going to be featured on the biggest stage on numerous occasions for numerous games. So I like him in this big spot, in this big moment, to actually produce. And so far he's been doing it, and I have to give him credit for it. So those are my top 5 players that I just, again, he's second on the team in scoring, Cam Radish. Second on the team in scoring, third year in the league. Those are my top players, breakout players who are 3 years or less. So obviously you've got some really talented players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's been in the league more than 4 years. So I'm not including him. Luka just doesn't count because he's already established. So these are the other 5 guys that I really like that have been in the league 3 years or less that I see great potential upside with. So, okay. Very quickly, the World Series started yesterday. The Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros played game 1 of the World Series. And let me first just say that this Atlanta Braves team, I don't know if I've seen a team this postseason be able to get off to such quick starts like the Atlanta Braves. This team just continues to produce in the first inning. That's where they've done their most damage throughout this entire postseason. They've been one of the best opening inning teams in the MLB, and they tack on 2 runs. They beat the Astros 6-2 yesterday. Soler got things started off with a big home run. Then Austin Reeves, who's just been a revelation for the Braves this year, just 24 years of age, drives in an RBI to make it 2-0. And the speed of the Braves, they're one of the best teams of just getting guys on base. We see Ozzie Albies just manages to get on base with tons of infield singles, beating out the throws. And then once he's on base, he's one of the best in the league at stealing bases. He's just lightning quick. And they put so much pressure on you, the Braves, when they get a guy aboard, because they're one of the best and fastest teams in the MLB. And they just jumped on the Astros early. Then Duvall followed it up. And obviously, it's a shame that they're going to lose Charlie Morton. You never want to see that. But overall, for me, listen, A.J. Minter stepped in beautifully in relief, actually earned the win, collected the win yesterday because he pitched more innings than Morton or any other bullpen guy. About 2 2/3 innings is what A.J. Minter gave you. He's a young southpaw that's really budding, and he's really brimming with a lot of potential talent. That it's not just potential talent, he's actually exercising it. So he's been really good. And this is the one thing that we know about postseason baseball. Postseason baseball comes down to pitching, comes down to starting pitching, comes down to relieving, you're closing the entire bullpen. That's what it comes down to. And so when I'm thinking about this matchup between the Braves and the Astros on paper, offensively, I would certainly give the edge to the Houston Astros. They've got a slightly more potent offense and offensive lineup from top to bottom, though the Braves have several players in their own right that have just kind of captured lightning in a bottle throughout this postseason. But when I look at the bullpen, for me, and again, even without Charlie Morton, I just think that the bullpen advantage goes to the Braves because I trust Will Smith a lot more than Presley as far as a closer is concerned. I just think that they're better. And then you look at the Astros, they don't have Lance McCullers Jr., who's their number 1 ace. I think that that's going to be a problem for them. I don't like the rest of their starting pitchers. They're going to have to go to the bullpen the majority of the games early on. I don't really like that. I think the Braves, they've got some better options. They still have Max Fried as a starting pitcher. But the thing that I just have been impressed with, there's just something unpredictable about the Braves this year. And it's not just the fact that they beat the Dodgers, they beat the Brewers, but they just really got hot at the right time. This is a team that closed out the season 12-2. They're 8-3 in the postseason. They had a 16-2 record at some point midway through the second half of the season. They've just been really rolling, and the fact that they've been able to do this all without Ronald Acuna Jr. is really impressive. It's really impressive, and their skipper Snitker, I think is his last name. They've just done a really nice job of buying in, trusting one another. And I actually just think that this is one of those special years where it's unpredictable, but they just seem like the team that has everything going for them. I really do think that that's the case. Not to mention, I just flat out would rather see the Atlanta Braves win because I despise the Houston Astros. I think that two things can be true. I think that I can recognize that some of their offensive players are immensely gifted and talented, and I can also view them as cheaters. It's as simple as that. Kind of scoundrels. I think two of those things can be true. I can think you're a good player, and I can also think you're a cheater. And both of those things are true in this case. And unfortunately for them, while I do think it will alleviate some of the vitriol aimed in the Astros' direction if they win this title, because this will be a legitimate World Series title, it can certainly kind of ease some of that hostility, but their legacies will forever be tarnished. This will live with them, I mean, in infamy. Like, they will be infamously known as the team that cheated, and more importantly, as the team not only cheated but didn't get away with it, got caught cheating. And that's the problem. The Braves just seem to do everything right. I have a lot of respect for their organization. Again, even though I'm a Dodgers fan, I have to tip my cap. They had a tremendous NLCS. I really like Freddie Freeman. I just think he's a good dude. He seems like a family guy. Seems like someone who has just kind of paid his dues. And I'm happy for him, happy for this team, and I'd like to see them win. And I just truly believe that they're playing better baseball right now. And ultimately, that's the more important thing. They took game one last night. Game two is tonight. I'm assuming the Astros will probably win that. But then that 3-game stretch in Atlanta might be the series. Might be the series right then and there. Okay, final topic before my Malkins moments. So big announcement in the United States women's national soccer team. Carli Lloyd, one of the star American soccer players, just announced her retirement, at least from international soccer. We'll see if she decides to play any more domestic MLS type of stuff. And for me, it's interesting because this was kind of a little bit of a shock, even though she's 39. So it shows you just how productive she's been for 2 decades now. And for me, what's special, 2 World Cup titles, a pair of Olympic gold medals, and obviously she's known for that performance in 2015 in the World Cup, a hat trick against Japan, scored all 3 goals in the first 16 minutes to lead them to a 5-2 rout of Japan to actually redeem themselves and exact some revenge for losing to Japan in 2011. Then obviously in 2008, she scored the game-winning goal at the 2008 Olympics. And in 2012, she scored both goals in the 2-1 win over Japan. And I just think that for Carli Lloyd, she's just been such a staple of not only the United States women's national team, but is kind of the one remaining relic from the Abby Wambach and Julie Foudy days, and has kind of bridged the gap from then to now with the Megan Rapinos and Alex Morgan group. She's kind of the one linchpin that has held this thing together. And I just think, right now, listen, she ranks second in the world for the most ever international appearances with 315. She scored 134 goals with the U.S., which is the 3rd most in the history of the women's team. And she has scored 10 goals at the Olympics, which is the most by any United States women's soccer player. And when I think about who are the greatest American women's soccer players of all time, Obviously, Mia Hamm, Abby Wambach, Julie Foudy. And there's so many of these players. Michelle Akers, Christy Rampone, Christine Lilly. And after that, you kind of transition to the next set of women, which includes kind of the Carli Lloyds and the Megan Rapinos and the Hope Solos and the Alex Morgans. But Carli Lloyd, I think, is in there. I really think that she's in there as one of the greatest women's soccer players of all time. And the fact that she has sustained that level of success for so long, to be a part of so many World Cup teams and Olympic teams, it speaks to the greatness and the longevity of her career. And so I was just, it almost kind of took me by surprise yesterday, because we're living in an age where we're just seeing athletes defy physics and age is just a number. And a lot of these athletes are playing into their late 30s. Obviously, Tom Brady's an exception, but everyone else still playing into their late 30s across the board, across any major sport. So big congratulations to Carli Lloyd on a tremendous international career with the United States women's national soccer team. If it is just, in fact, a retirement altogether from soccer, a tremendous achievement, and just a big shout out to her, because she's been, again, such a staple of this United States women's national team for so many years. And that perfectly segues into my Malkins moments. I have a couple great Malkins moments for you. I probably could have thrown Carli Lloyd into the Malkins moments, but I decided I wanted to give her her own little segment because I felt like she deserved that. So I didn't put her into the Malkins moments, but I can group her in. I'll give her a shout out again in the Malkins moments for Carli Lloyd retiring from the United States women's national soccer team, finishing with the third most goals, 134, in the United States women's national soccer team history, ranked second in the world for most ever international appearances with 315, and has the most goals for United States women's soccer player ever at the Olympics with 10. So big shout out to Carli Lloyd. Then, so Tom Brady, we remember that he passed he completed his 600th touchdown pass over the weekend. This is a special moment because the fan who received that ball from Mike Evans, and I told you how Bucs officials actually had to go retrieve the ball from him. So this fan is actually now receiving a huge haul from the Bucs because he had to give back that ball. So what was disclosed was the Bucs fan was rewarded with at least 2 signed jerseys and a helmet from Tom Brady, a signed Mike Evans jersey, and his cleats that he wore from that game, a $1,000 credit at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team store, and 2 season tickets for the rest of this season and next season. So not a bad haul. It's obviously interesting to see how much he could have gotten, but apparently what he said, the fan, is that the real main thing that he would have liked is to just be able to play golf with Brady, which I think is really cool. That's obviously a different kind of personal relationship, personal activity that you could do as opposed to just kind of receiving memorabilia. But regardless, classy move by both sides, by the Bucs organization and by the fan. That's a really enjoyable one. In the NHL, Austin Matthews scored his 200th goal. The Toronto Maple Leaf star became the fastest U.S.-born player to reach 200 goals. Already off to a great start personally. Toronto Maple Leafs I think are just 2-4. They're not really doing too well in the NHL season. But again, it's young. It's a fresh season, so we'll see what happens. But big shout out to him. Big shout out to the Tampa Bay Rays' Nelson Cruz for winning the 2021 Roberto Clemente Award for his charitable work in the Dominican Republic. Well, for him, it's the Dominican Republic, but in his native country. So big shout out to Nelson Cruz. But this is the main Malkins moment. This is the one that deserves so much of the attention. To Shohei Ohtani, he earned the Achievement Award, the Special Historic Commissioner's Achievement Award. The Angel Star is just the 16th all-time recipient of the Commissioner's Historic Achievement Award. This is not an annual award. Again, only 16 guys, including Shohei Ohtani, in the history of the MLB have received this award. The season that Shohei Ohtani had this year is just remarkable on so many levels. He was one of 5 players in MLB history with 100-plus RBIs, 45-plus home runs. He had 46, and 25-plus stolen bases in a season. He was the first MLB player with 30-plus home runs as a hitter and 30 or more strikeouts as a pitcher in a season for Shohei Ohtani. Of course, doing it on both sides. We all thought, oh, Babe Ruth was a two-way player. Not at this level. Not at this level. Especially on the pitching. Obviously, Babe Ruth, hitting-wise, was sensational. But pitching-wise, he doesn't come close to Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani had 25 home runs, 110-plus miles an hour, which was the most this season. He had 20 home runs, 425 or more feet, which was the most this season. And again, the last time that this award was handed out was to the New York Yankees, Derek Jeter, and the legendary Dodgers broadcaster Vince Scully in 2014. Those were the most recent examples. So Ohtani's also a finalist for the Silver Slugger Award this year. He's a leading candidate for AL MVP, despite the fact that the Angels didn't have the best record. And he just had one of the most historically great seasons in MLB history. And a big shout out to Shohei Ohtani. That'll do it for us here on Morning Joe. Thank you so much for joining me every single Monday and Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 to 11 Central, and 8 to 9 a.m. Pacific. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube page, Morning Joe with Jonah Malkin. Follow me on Twitter at morning_Joe_ or at Jonah Malkin, at JMalk97 on Instagram, Jonah Malkin on TikTok. And as always, have a lovely rest of your morning.